Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, the names Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Yeah. I used to take them 12 essential cell salts as well. Apparently, you're only born with 9. I think the mother makes 9 of them for the 9 months you're in the womb, but you're always neglected of 3. I used to take them for a while. It's the 12 essential ones, and I felt pretty good when I was taking them. I'll have to get some more of that. Have you heard of them, Riley?
Yeah, I've heard of the cell salts as well.
Mic check.
Hey, Neil.
How's everybody doing?
Hi, Nathan. Hi, Neil.
Hey, One Deck. I'm very well. And I started my amplifier campaign. The first thing I did, almost as soon as I started the campaign, was I ordered an amp from a retailer because I could pay for it in 3 installments on PayPal. So I got pay in 3. If you're familiar with PayPal, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I did that, and then, you know, in preempting getting enough money to cover it, and then obviously as the money came in, one big massive chunk from Paul, I put that to another 2 amps. Yeah, neglecting that obviously I'd have to pay for the other ones. But that's continued to roll on. And today, a guy that's contributed to me for the longest time ever, a guy called Michael, also gave me another 50 quid on Give, Send, Go. So I was like, wicked, I'll just pay off that last payment. So I've essentially paid for, I've not just got them, I've actually paid for all of those amps now. So it's just that something that just cheered me up today when I clicked the pay all button on whatever it is, PayPal. I was like, oh, great, I've paid for them all now. That's excellent. Really chuffed with myself. So anyway, I just thought I'd give it a mention.
Isn't it great when you could just pay the bills?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was there anyway. It was 150 quid. It wasn't like it was a massive amount of money, but it was obviously pending next month. But it was nice to just clear it and think, next month I haven't got to worry about that. Because obviously the campaign's pretty much died out. So yeah, that was a nice surprise. There we go.
Yeah, those people that say money doesn't make you happy and money is this and you don't know the stresses. Give me a shot. Money, what it does is it makes things easier. Let's face it. You don't have to worry about how you're paying your bills. There's got to be a big load off your mind.
It's nice when you get a run of good luck like that, though. Then I mean, remember Nathan said, you know, a few months ago, your taps went, your heater went. You was having a, you know, we all go through it, and you're just getting hit and hit. You got the devil on your shoulder, and now you've just had some good vibes, money coming in, paid a few bills, got your amp sorted out, so all good in the hood.
Well, that's it. Just the general grind is enough to keep things like that ticking over, which I don't tend to think about because they depress me. But yeah, when they do get on top of you, and like you say, all the taps are broken, and the water was off, and there was no heating, and it's like life is pretty miserable at the moment. But like I say, you keep plodding through your general grind because that's normal stuff, and the normal grind of YouTube will eventually pay for those things. But then it means there's never any spare cash to buy an amp repair, which was what then happened after while that was all going on. Like another amp's gone bang. Oh, so like struggling to keep on top of all these normal household things, and their show related to a degree because obviously the house is going to run for the show to run, but an amp is directly connected to the show, and it's like, oh, this is just the last straw. I can't afford to spend yet another 500 quid on a repair for these really expensive amps. Anyway, I don't want to rehash the entire campaign. As Paul's just joined. Hey, Paul, by the way. I don't know if his mic's not working or he's slept away for a second. But in any event, like I say, I'd started the campaign, and as soon as I got money and I started robbing Peter to pay Paul to buy more of them, so as you do, because I just wanted to get to the end of it. So once I'd got them, I was elated that I'd got them, and you just kind of forget, well, I've still got a few extra bills that I'm going to have to pay for them because I've technically bought them on credit, or at least one of them. But that's not the case thanks to Michael. So if you're listening, Michael, thank you very much indeed. It really is a load off. And Paul, moreover, as he gave the biggest chunk of all, but he stepped away. I want to sort Flatsoid out. I was talking to Paul about this earlier this morning. Flatsoid sound is terrible. Nobody wants to say it, clearly.
Afternoon. So
Hello.
I was talking to Michael and hammering elements, so I'm a bit distracted.
That's okay. I was just moaning about Flatsoid sound. He and I just can't seem to get together, and he leaves me messages that I can't listen to because I'm never in front of the computer except when doing the show, and my iPad just won't play Skype messages for some reason. But in any event, I need to get in front of him while I'm on the computer and actually put him in the right direction. Tell him to get some more virtual audio cables.
If you can send me what you sent him, maybe if I read through it, I can talk to him about it at a different time, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you. I've got it all on a playlist. I mean, I'll send you just the individual 10-minute video that I was talking to you about earlier.
Okay.
But yes, I will send that to you. It's a very useful video for anybody who's doing any type of broadcasting. And in the case of yourself, Paul, you're helping other people do it. So it would be a useful video. 10 minutes of your time, and you'll have a vague idea about what is happening when you're routing different audio signals in and out of a desk on a computer. Hi, Adam.
Well, put it in the main chat, the master whatever debaters was called.
Master B. Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah, because I want to use it too then.
Let's find it. I only sent it to Flatsoid again for the second time this morning. Ah, thanks, Nathan. You rock. Oh, right. He's acknowledged it this time. It's because I overload people with information. I'm a bit too keen. So the last time I sent him the link to this video, Flatsoid, that is, I sent it along with a whole bunch of other information about what was causing the problem. And what I should have just done is gone, here's a link to a video to solve your problem. Full stop. Right, I've pasted it into Master B. It's just called How to Set Up Voice Meter Banana for OBS or XSplit.
Thank you.
You can tell it's from a bygone time by the title, because the title tells you what's in the video. How to Set Up Voice Meter Banana for OBS or XSplit. That's a good title, right? Today, if he made that video today, I discovered the most exciting thing ever in Voice Meter! Exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark.
Meghan Markle doesn't even know about this function on Skype.
Yeah. Meghan Markle? What?
See, you're so far out of the loop.
Well, who's
Everything's
Meghan Markle?
If you even your mate Sean Atwood sticks Meghan Markle on everything to get views.
Who's this? Who are you talking about? No, I don't know who you're talking about. And I assume you're mocking me because I don't watch the news or care.
Well, in this case, well, I am now that you don't know the Ginger Prince's missus. The white black lady.
Ah, okay. Now I do know who you mean, because I've seen her being analysed by the behaviour panel for being a narcissist. So I do know who you mean.
That wasn't what I spoke
black
of.
lady.
Yeah, the white black lady. I mean, she looks white, but she identifies historically as black. I'd like to take her to Ghana and ask everybody in Ghana, is she a white woman or a black woman?
Is she not mixed race? Is mixed race allowed? I know half caste isn't allowed anymore.
Yeah, well, that was 50-50. Where's she at? Her mum's probably, I suppose, a quarter black and white, and then the rest white. So that puts her at an 8th.
Why do we care? Do you
At
care?
what point
Who cares?
Quite serious question this. At what point do you stop having the black gene being able to be called black and where you look completely white. At what point are you no longer allowed to use that title of "I'm black"? Is it 16th or 32?
No, I'm quite literal
I
in
don't
this
know
regard.
anything
Okay,
about
well,
this woke nonsense, man.
let me just solve this with chocolate. Chocolate, what color is your skin?
Chocolate.
Don't say chocolate.
That's why he's called
Brown.
chocolate.
Shh, don't help him.
Yeah, but is it white chocolate or black chocolate?
Don't help
or-
him.
You
Don't
will
help
drink it
him.
now.
Just answer me seriously. What color is your skin?
Light brown.
Would you not say black? Can't you just say black?
His skin's not black though, is it?
But I'd be lying. My skin isn't black. The sweater I'm wearing right now is black, but my skin is light brown.
Yeah, we're asking a specific question, so he's giving a specific answer.
Who's causing that feedback? Definitely not happening through my desk.
Is
Is
it
it
me?
my fajita?
Anyway, okay, well, that didn't work at all. I was going to answer your question, Adam, by saying it's based on colour. In other words, if you're black, you're black. But I might as well now say if you're brown, you're brown, which makes my point useless thanks to chocolate.
So,
Anyway,
sorry
before
for using specificity.
Complete sideways of almost revealing that. Penn, I don't know if Tev's told you, he's away for 9 days. He's on a golfing competition with his mates. But he sent me a message to say, please remind. He's forgot to tell you.
Who is?
For
10th. 9 days. I'll read it, yeah. Please tell.
yeah, I was just having a golfing flashback.
But
I forgot to mention I'll be going away on a 9-day golf outing with his mates. So it won't be on the live show. Please, can you let Nathan know?
Thanks.
I told you.
Well, I didn't know 10th was a
I-
connoisseur of the golfing.
Who cares? And no offense to 10th. Yes, wonderful. Thank you for letting me know. But what's the Megan, whatever her name is? Who was trying to get in? I've just missed them now. Whoever it was, try again. Oh, we're not live, are we? Well, we should be. Bloody hell. 2 minutes past. What was the point in this discussion, though, Adam?
I generally don't know. I dropped a Meghan Markle point in, and then Chocolate jumped on that, and away we went.
start the
You know what?
show.
Other
The only
than,
reason I spoke up was to tell you about 10th. So God knows why I started rambling
but
about.
is this something that's being discussed? I mean, although I am not exactly Mr. Current Affairs, I would like to know why specifically you're not in any way racist. So for you to specifically note that there's a talking or discussion point about the colour of her skin specifically, that must mean something, i.e. that's being discussed in the papers, or what's the deal? I just want to know what the deal is.
Well, there's a lot of race stuff going about at the moment. She's just an easy target, isn't she? If you're going to make a quip about it,
Like Obama.
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, he's just as easy. Did you see Chelsea Clinton congratulating on how brave the Obamas are coming out as the first?
Oh,
That's
God.
Yeah, but to read the tweet, she's congratulating them on the conspiracy theory, which I found very interesting. Complete sideways again.
Well, I'm slightly a few seconds behind
congratulating-
if you want to fill us in because I'm waiting for the... I know the live stream is connecting. Okay, well, I'm going to cut you all off and start the live show. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Paul, Adam, Neil, Arwin, Chocolate, Brian, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Yeah.
Hello,
Let's
hello. Good
go.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Good morning.
An informal intro day today, is it? I like it.
Informal, it was exactly
Beautiful
the same as
spring day.
every day ever.
No, because sometimes I'm the Adam Meekin. Sometimes Chocolate's Chocolate saying. Sometimes Neil gets his surname. Today it was all first mates.
No, just first name stay right. I'll take it all back. It was an informal introduction. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Wow, 33 people watching already. I'll
It's
start
over
late more
there.
often.
It's over
Check
there.
that out. Please share the show. 30 people watching right at the start. That's quite high. Please share the show.
No, we don't know what the sun is.
It's over there. I can see it. I
I-
can measure an angle to it, whatever it is.
I thought it was a burning ball of gas.
Unfortunately, Paul's dry and concise answer is going to trump all of yours. Do you want to repeat that, Paul?
No, because we don't know what the sun is.
Yeah, how we know? It's supposed to know a distance to it.
It doesn't seem to be literally there.
Yeah, it's, as you just said, it's over there. I can see it right now.
Well, I have the heliocentric version, if that's any good to you.
Let me ask my next question, then we'll see. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Well, I have the heliocentric version, if that's any good to you.
Well,
you could
It depends on whether or not you've
definitely
got.
Those things that you're seeing in the sky are physical things in a location somehow. Then you might be more inclined to believe that you're also standing on a sphere. Because that would make more sense then. Even, though it might not be visibly there, The horizon never was really geometric. Just a mistake.
Yeah, but Arwin, if we shoot a geometric tangent line to a refracted horizon, and then we back calculate it, we get R.
Right.
Ta-da.
Exactly. See? There you go.
That is actually as good as their story. Literally, better actually.
Yeah, it's more accurate.
Right,
More
any
accurate,
evidence?
More concise,
Go on,
better in
Brian.
all ways. Sorry. Just saying more accurate, more concise, and better in all ways. And it's only sarcasm.
That's a damn shame, isn't it?
I don't know if we asked this on one of the other shows, but as we're going to be continuing with the wired witch in a moment, any scientific evidence of gravity?
I have the heliocentric version of it, if that's any good to you.
Somebody's knock him out.
Acceleration. There's always acceleration. Somebody in my chat today was saying that. There's but what about acceleration? Oh, so what about that ball that's floating in the water that's not going up and down? Is that accelerating?
Well, yes.
Mm.
Well, actually, yes. I mean, in their world currently, well, it depends on if you take the quantum foam out of it. In their Einsteinian world currently, then yeah, it's experiencing 1G, even though it's in equilibrium with the water, not displacing it. The displacement is irrelevant to the force that it's experiencing when in equilibrium, because they would assert it's experiencing a force of 1G. Arwin.
Yeah, but how is that acceleration then? Isn't acceleration isn't the antecedent to acceleration actual motion?
No, because
Well,
you don't.
it's
natural motion.
Okay, go on.
Zero.
Whoever that is that Adam?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
When you're falling and you're actually under the influence, so you're actually having an effect of being pulled down by this magical force, when that's happening, that's described as zero.
Precisely. So it's a
Makes
moving.
sense.
It's a sliding of the scale. So with the Wired Witch explaining this to a college student, she describes it as though you're in a lift, but you can't experience anything because you've got no windows to reference where you are. And as the lift has the chain or whatever, the wire cut, and it descends, you start to float. Now that would be on the scale 0. No force, no experienceable force. You wouldn't even know you were falling. Now, although she was subtle with the student describing this, she then took it to the conceptual medium of space, like she did with the child before, where she had a car crashing into you, but you didn't know whether or not you were moving or the thing was moving past you. Well, that's 0 to them. So you've moved the scale up 1. So back to your answer, your ball in equilibrium, not displacing the water, is at 1g in their paradigm. Clear?
No, that's incorrect.
I get that. That mathematically will work out, but
Brian's going to give us an issue.
It's not accelerating.
Hold on, Brian. Hold on, Alwyn. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, if you're at 0g, right, when you're falling, then why are you falling?
Oh,
The
you
whole
weren't
G.
challenging my dissemination of the nonsense. You were saying it was not. That's fine. Yeah. Oh, yes. I should have padded that out a little bit. Yes, we are talking about complete gibberish nonsense. But to answer Arwen's question about whether or not something in the Einsteinian mechanics of pseudo-force-space time bending, whether or not it has a non-force force that you can think of as a force acting upon it when it's in equilibrium with water, the answer is 1g. It's nonsense, yes, Brian.
So
Yeah,
they
because-
basically say everything's accelerating even though it's not accelerating.
Correct.
You can just think of it as accelerating.
Yes, and you can think
Unless
of that
it is
non-acceleration as a
accelerating,
force. It's
and then
not.
it's described as 0.
It's described as exactly. We all clear?
Yeah, except for at
Okay.
0g, you fall. They show their way of demonstrating 0g is things falling, which is completely contradictory to 1g. What are you falling if it's 0g? Chocolate, you tell me. Come on, please.
How are you falling if there's 0g? My question is, what if something is accelerating in the opposite direction of what the claim is?
You're both
supposed
wrong.
to be?
The question's wrong and the answer's wrong. Right, no. The 0g is you falling. So in Newtonian, the concept of falling is perfectly acceptable because you've got a force that's acting between your mass and the mass of the ground. Now, obviously, notwithstanding gas behaviour, which debunks that, you then move on, but you still need an effective force, an equivalent force, a non-force force that you can think of as a force. So by moving the scale up 1, yeah, when you're falling, it's not that you are falling if you do have something in relation to you. You're still at 0. It's moving up. You're still at 0 in that paradigm. That's why you've got the world moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared in both the Flat Earth Society rhetoric and the Einsteinian rhetoric.
Yeah, but 0g has nothing to do with relativity. 0g is purely what they describe as Newtonian. So 0g should mean that you're not going up or down because you're not being pulled out. Well, you definitely can't be going down.
Correct.
Because you're not.
That's right.
You're not being.
That
you're
is
at
correct.
0g. There was no g.
Hold on.
No, that is correct. However, to get around that fact, because you still need to be not moving relative to your own position, not knowing that things are moving past you, when in Earth's orbital motion without the Newtonian force, you describe that non-force that you can think of as a force. It's the world moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's how you get around that,
No.
Brian.
No way. If my counter was not there, everything on top of it would still be going down.
What about the steam from your kettle?
Uh-oh.
Not including steam, just stuff that has,
Oh,
that's matter, physical stuff.
Well, helium,
But Nathan-
about helium
Physical
balloon.
just the stuff that goes down there.
Gas is not
Nathan.
physical.
Yeah, hold on. Brian's trying to get a word. Go on, Brian. Sounds serious.
Nathan, what you just did there is you convoluted two different claims of gravity, and you basically begged the question for them and solved a problem for them.
Absolutely correct.
Zero-
Yes, that's right.
0g has. Yeah.
Let me just
0G
justify why. Yes, that's correct. I'm glad you pointed it out. I'm doing that intentionally so that I didn't think you would get cut into the chase this quickly by you summarising the fact that I'm doing that. That's what the Wired Witch is doing, isn't she? We're getting there. But yes, that's absolutely correct, Brian. Feel free to continue.
Yeah, because you're convoluting between two completely different explanations for what they call gravity, and you are taking a problem with what they term as Newtonian, which isn't Newtonian, and you're solving it with Einsteinian, which is a completely different explanation and completely superseded the older, what they claim to be Newtonian explanation. So what you just did there is convoluted two things that can't match together and don't go together, and there are two completely different geometries, and you solved a problem for them that wasn't your problem to solve.
So are you saying that he was doing what the Wired Witch was doing? She was basically trying to fuse two different gravities, like the old-fashioned one, her words, the old-fashioned. I like the old and busted, but she went old-fashioned style. And the new hotness, is that what he's doing?
Yeah, because they're not
He's
compatible.
been under the influence of witchery. Yeah.
He's fallen under the spell.
So yeah,
Save
Brian's.
yourself, David.
I can't take credit for that. You know, I'm not intentionally trying to do that to solve some problem. That's what the Wired Witch is. That's the problem she's solving. Yeah. In this process that she's going through with all these different stages of gravitational nonsense and how the story progresses. Well, in between stages, between high school and college and uni, she's convoluting these two non-force and force, and downward bias versus force, and upward bias versus your non-movement. She's convoluted all of it so far. But I think this is going to be the last one. Should we get into this now, or did we want to carry on talking about maybe one more housekeeping question? Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative. Plenty of phenomena, but you can't science it because we can't get to them. You can't handle it. Can't wiggle it.
Yeah, they can't verify anything that they can't manipulate any causes that they may claim is responsible. They also can't show any of the causes that they claim in our 3D reality. That's another problem they have, isn't it?
So, Brian, what they're doing is they're observing the stars, and just by observations, they're declaring what's going on. And they're calling it science?
Well, all their causes are all heliocentric causes that are all taking place in a heliocentric universe. So you can't, these are all things that aren't observable and experienceable in our 3D world. So how could you even assert that as a cause? All their causes are faulty to begin with.
Okay, should we get into a bit of the Wired Witch? Yes, Nathan, we're all really
Absolutely.
keen.
Yeah.
Well, this
The
is part
Wired
4.
Witch.
So again, we've been covering a bit of this in the after shows if we haven't run out of time in the hour. So if you want to check back for the last 3, they're starting to come out now. It's just why I wouldn't normally plug it in this way, but literally not today's because there's Quantum Eraser's show. Be here or be sphere for Quantum Eraser Live on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, which comes out at 7 p.m. UK time tonight. So check that out. That's where there'd normally be an Uncut and after show, but there isn't. So tomorrow there will be, and it'll be on the Wired Witch because we're now overlapping with last week's shows. Anyway, I'm going to play out the last few seconds of the last guy that we covered yesterday and round it out in the after show, and then we'll move on to the next one.
And that even though we have a very good understanding, there's lots of things that we don't fully understand. There's still a lot of questions to be answered, which I think is really exciting.
See, you're a scientist.
Not asking questions, no. Solving cause and effect reasoning with the systematic experimentation we disseminated yesterday would be making him a scientist. But look how pleased he is.
The best part being able to ask the
Look,
question.
I'm a scientist. Look how chuffed I am. I'm so scientist. Wow, asking questions makes me a scientist. Well, no, mate.
Why is that? Why is that followed with embarrassed giggles instead of saying yes? Why is it elicit that response? Is that a bit of honesty? That embarrassed laugh?
Because look what he said. He said that there's so much we understand, and then right after that, he said there's so much we don't understand, and she's just like he science.
Well, she seems to say he's a scientist when he he says, I ask questions. So you ask questions.
And then science. That's what you said. Oh, you
could also be like the host of Jeopardy, couldn't you?
pretty much.
All you do is ask questions.
Or Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. Do. But that appears to be the qualifier for her to say you're a scientist. You ask questions.
Yeah, she's qualifying pseudoscience.
So we've been talking about gravity from Newton and celestial bodies, the Earth, the Moon, pulling on each other in the conventional sense of gravity being an attractive force, to the Earth creating curves in space-time. And then we moved on to just diffuse seas of energy and space.
Wow, she's summarizing the multiple layers of nonsense that she's just lied to the other 3 stages of students with. Wow, she's doing a really good job of summarizing what we're objecting to.
And what's funny is she put the Earth in as a celestial body itself. Just real flippantly, real smooth like. The witch is good, man.
As the real universe.
Is this her now? Sorry, is this her now with her peer saying, "You'll never guess the crap that I've had the kids, the junior schools, and even some of the degree students believe in? We both know it's absolute nonsense. Let's show how clever we two are, and we've got everybody else mugged off believing this crap."
Yeah, that's what she started off with. Yeah, we've talked about the old force pulling stuff, and then we've talked about their silly fields, and then we've gone on to 4D space time. It's just summarising the total nonsense that's gone before. Presumably, you know, like you say, maybe it's that with her colleague. I don't know, but yeah, it's just that's what she's doing. They're going to have a little chuckle about how well they've just deceived multiple generations of children. Not multiple generations, multiple years, whatever you call them, class years, class levels. But yeah, that's what she's just done.
And gravitation is really just talking about space-time in general. And here we
Let's just hear that again. That's just that last little section. She basically says that gravity is just talking about space-time.
seas of energy and space-time as the real universe, and gravitation is really just talking about space-time in general. And here we are, and you're really hardcore in theoretical physics. Where would you take?
Just talking about it. That's what it is.
Wow. That's a concession.
Yeah, embedded confession.
Take the exposition of gravity from that point?
Well, one thing is quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is the most successful theory in the history of science. It explains the most different phenomena the most precisely. Yet, many people would still say we don't understand even the basics of it.
So when we think about quantum mechanics, we think...
Understand the basics of it. The basics would be the scientific validity. You definitely understand it. We have computers as a result of it. So I'm pretty sure we do understand the basics of it, and it's advanced to humanity because it's based on true science. So he started out with the dirty little secret that every last word she's just disseminated to multiple children is debunked by quantum mechanics. But what? We don't really understand quantum mechanics much. I think we know enough to know it debunks Einstein and the speed of light.
Think about particles and their quantum charges. And in the Feynman way, the way that Feynman taught us, they come in and they exchange.
The laws of motion of Newton were not right. End quote, Richard Feynman. That's what Newton had to say about the crap lies that you just told those children. Feynman specifically said that those laws weren't right. Of course, you just told children then that, didn't you, love?
Change a force carrier, and then they come out again. So that's how we think of an electron and light scattering, for instance, or something like that. And the language that Einstein gave us is so different. It's completely geometric. It's all of this space-time. And it's also unnecessary.
All right. Why did you just brainwash a load of children with it? Sure, you guys have got a lot to say on this.
It's also unnecessary.
Yep.
Wow. Why is it unnecessary?
Probably because it's a conceptual medium that's not real. So why would anything like that be necessary?
Well, if it's unnecessary, then why would you need to know anything about that? Why would even involve that in the explanations then?
I like the way they're sticking quantum mechanics in it.
Well, they're in the process, the downward slope of removing Einstein. So that's what this is about. They're gradually removing him while still giving him accolades. But it's going to get to the point where he was almost right, but he wasn't right enough. Whereas quantum mechanics is right, and they're trying to hijack quantum mechanics. That's what they're trying to do. And they're going to be claiming quantum mechanics in about 10 to 15 years' time, when the truth is that quantum mechanics goes against all that rubbish. That was all based on Einstein.
So that's why it's unnecessary, right?
No.
I
What's
see.
actually happening is, again, a bit of a greasing of the skids. Yes, Brian's right. They're going to be hijacking the scientific validity of quantum mechanics when they start talking about gravitational foam or quantum foam or whatever they're talking about. However, what they're really doing when he says we don't really know much about quantum mechanics is throwing quantum mechanics under the bus, so that when they start changing their stories about gravity, they can say, oh, well, it's like that in science. We don't know much about quantum mechanics either. And yet, obviously, that's still scientifically validated. We're finding new stuff out all the time. And now we're finding new stuff about gravity, aka quantum mechanics is just as much a pseudoscience as our gravity was. And it's not the case. So him decrying how much we know about quantum mechanics is his way of bundling it in the same pseudoscience category as his gravity is. That's all it is. When we know damn well it's actually debunking gravity with its scientific validity. Who cares how much he thinks he knows about it? It's got science behind it. That's all that matters. Gravity doesn't.
Yeah, for me, the beauty of the theory of gravity is...
What theory of gravity would that be? The theory? There is no theory. You just talked about the theory of quantum mechanics and then decided to throw it under the bus. Theories of gravity don't exist. There's no scientific validity to it. That's why we started off this process by asking for the scientific validation that any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics can offer. None of them have any. There certainly is no validated scientific experimentation to base a theory on for gravity.
It's the way Einstein formulated it as a
Formulated it? That sounds like maths. This isn't a theory. This isn't scientifically validated. It's just something you can talk about. It's totally unnecessary.
theory of geometry, of curves.
Geometry? Is that science? Has that got theory behind it? No. That's geometry. Invented by Einstein about a fourth dimension we don't experience and don't live in. Space-time! There it is. The curving geodesics in space-time.
Space and time. I think, like you, that's one of the things that really pulled me into it.
Is there really space-time, or are we just...
Why are you even asking? You've just got a whole field that's dedicated to studying this crap from Einstein. Now you're asking about whether or not it's even real? You've just told the whole generation of children how real it is, and now you're sitting with your colleague questioning the validity of it? What an absolute outrage. So you haven't got a clue if it's even real, but you're prepared to indoctrinate children with it. What a total outrage.
Using unnecessary language because it's elegant and we like it and it's beautiful.
Like indoctrinating children with that elegant language because it's beautiful, but you don't know what it is and you question its even existence. What an outrage. Go ahead, whoever that is.
That's the confession right there. Yes, it's a beautiful language that we use to describe some nonsense we make up in our heads, and that's how she ends it. Why would she even bring that up if that wasn't the case? If this was validated, why would she talk about it like that? Because it's not.
Because this is these two are at the pinnacle. So part of their superiority complex is to look down on the others, knowing that what's been taught them is nonsense. And that's what she's doing there. Yeah. Showing how smart them two are. Because they've mastered all of those things, but know that is it necessary? Yeah. Yeah. What she's actually saying is, why do we teach this load of lies? But it's now described as, is it necessary to describe it like that? Because it's false, isn't it?
That's why it came with the giggling before, when she said, oh, so you got to ask questions, science. That was the giggle that showed that, oh, because I'm the smart one and you got to ask me all these questions, which I got to just spew whatever I wanted to spew, right? And now we've got science. Look how that works beautifully.
This is the point of the highest outrage for me, because this is the point that she's sat down with a coffee after lecturing the students and going, what a load of nonsense that all was. And we damn well know it, don't we? But I just told the last guy he's a scientist because he doesn't know much about this and some of it seems wrong. But that makes him a scientist, ha ha ha.
Well, for me, what mostly stands out all the time with these people is They want to get to the point where she just got to, where she's having a little giggle where she looks down her nose at people, that she's basically deceived. Her and her ilk has deceived. But they can't get to the point of saying gravity is just not there. They keep on having to say, use the word gravity. They keep having to bring that in. They have no choice. Because if they say gravity never existed, we were wrong about all those things about this gravity thing was all wrong, it wasn't there. There is no heliocentric model for them to bolster themselves off of to get the accolades they get in society. That doesn't exist anymore. So they can't ever say gravity is not there. Even though they're saying, they're basically telling people it's a load of rubbish. Aren't they? They're there.
Yeah. And they have to keep that story going. So it doesn't matter if it changes from a force that's not really a force, but you can think of it as a force, to the bending and warping of the space-time. It'll just move to the next nonsense, whatever it is, because just that word gravity in itself has to exist in order for the heliocentric model to make any sense. It has to.
Well, if you take the word gravity and you take a different word like automobile, when is the house brush that you use to sweep your floor, when is that ever going to be described as an automobile? When is the sink that you wash your hands in, when is that going to be described as an automobile?
Wait 1 second.
The point is that...
Just 1 sec. Can I think of it as an automobile?
You can, and that's what they're doing. They're taking the word gravity that is ingrained, as she showed, from little kids up to university level, ingrained this word in people's heads and all the things that it means, and they're just changing their definition of it, basically. It used to be a force, then it was space-time bending, now it's a quantum thing. God knows what it will be in 20 years' time. The point is that they keep changing the definition of it, whereas the word automobile always means the same thing, but the word gravity, that changes of what it actually means from decade to decade, it seems.
All right, well, as an anti-flat earther / globe believer, all I heard in what you just said was I can take my sink to be an automobile if I want to. So I'm going to walk away with that from that information, Brian, as is only reasonable.
Yeah, well, if you want to believe that science is something that changes and is open to change, then you can do that, I suppose.
It doesn't matter if the definition changes, Brian, because that's not really the important thing. As long as you still believe in the heliocentric paradigm, that's its purpose. It's just to reaffirm that, whether it's confusing, complicated, changes over time.
It's the magic word.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam.
But that's it. It is a magic word that doesn't have to mean anything. That's the purpose. As long as to the listener, it means we're still on a ball in space.
Exactly, which is why they have to keep using it. Regardless of what it ends up supposedly meaning, they have to keep using it because that means heliocentrism. When they stop using that word, there won't be heliocentrism.
Which word? Gravity?
Sorry,
that's the magic word.
Gravity.
Beautiful.
Well, I think there is really space-time in the sense that it's a description that works really well. So
I think there is space-time, a fourth dimension, because it's a description that works really well. So I think there is unicorns because there's a description that works really well of unicorns. That's his logic.
There has to be something right about it. That's their language. That's terrible. Look at is that proof?
No.
That's just...
Has to be something right about it, yeah.
Something right about it.
He's actually being truthful about it, though. That's all it is. It's a description that, in their mind, works really well. So that's what they use.
I just want to hear that once again in full.
Necessary language because it's elegant and we like it and it's beautiful.
Well, I think there is really space-time in the sense that it's a description that works really well. So there has to be something right about it. I mean, if we're going to talk about what's really, really underlying that, and we're going to put quantum mechanics into the mix, then there's...
So what's really, really underlying the nonsense that we don't even know is in existence and we're going to question its validity here at the higher levels? What's really underlying it? Quantum mechanics. Really? So speed of light's out the window then? You know, that's completely debunked. And he knows it. Both of them do.
There should be some quantum mechanical wave function for space-time.
Sorry, there should be a wave function. That's diffraction. What's that got to do with quantum mechanics? Explaining the cause of it. Yeah? Knowledge of which path information. The diffraction pattern itself has got sod all to do with whether or not you can describe diffraction within space-time. Diffraction patterns aren't quantum mechanics. Yeah? Space-time is an invented geometry. But what there should be a quantum mechanical description in mathematics for our mathematical description of space-time that we're questioning its validity of. Why should there be? No. The scientific validity offered to quantum mechanics has no necessity to explain space-time. Certainly not the diffraction aspect that's being explained in the phenomenal part of the experiment to establish the cause of the diffraction in knowledge of which path. Yet this is what gives us quantum mechanics. This is what gives us all of our advanced technology. It's got sod all to do with bending geodesics in space-time, and there's no mathematical need, not science, to explain it therein.
That must be a new thing because that's what my son has been doing with quantum mechanics and with the knowledge of the which path. He's been putting it in space and try to tie it all in together.
Let me just say that when that guy said, I think there is, I think this is verbatim, I think there is space-time because it's such a good description, or it describes it so well. What does space-time describe? It describes space-time. So he's talking about relativity being a great description of relativity. That's what he's talking about. And then he's going on to talk about. Go on, yeah, sorry.
But in subject matter, it's in a category error. It's saying, I need the cause and effect reasoning of quantum mechanics to explain something that's got a mathematical geometry. It's like, no. The quantitative versus the qualitative. The qualitative has been established with quantum mechanics and the experiments that give us all of our technology. But the quantitative value in a geometry that doesn't exist has no bearing on a cause and effect relationship. None. These are different categories. He's saying, I want cause and effect to explain this maths. It's like, what? What? No. You can quantify the cause and effect with maths, but you're saying your maths has no use within the cause and effect reasoning. Therefore, the cause and effect reasoning needs to work harder to explain your space-time. It's an absolute cluster screw. It's so annoying. Adam, come on, speak to this for me. Just speak. Am I wrong in my outrage, Adam? I'm hoping I'm appealing to you in terms of what I'm trying to disseminate here.
I totally agree that the language is interesting. He's using it. It's admission language. He says at the start there that about is Einsteinian, and admitting that's false. So what is it? What's underlining this is quantum mechanics. What does that mean? So what could be a correct explanation of the universe would be to use quantum mechanics. That appeared to me what he's saying there, and which is a tacit admittance that what they're talking is, as elegant as that language is, it's useless because it doesn't describe the universe. But if we're going to do it, quantum mechanics is the way to do it. Now, fundamentally, we said that these things, we've said it day after day, and these things aren't interchangeable. They fundamentally oppose each other, as with Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. But with Einsteinian, you've got to have fixed matter, fixed position, fixed speed. But the universe doesn't work like that. So I think we've got to this level where I bet it was like this around about 1900. No one's prepared to slag Newton off, but we want to just drag in Einstein without a smooth transition. We'll just fudge this bit in. I think we're seeing it live here, like in our time now, as they smooth away Einstein, knowing it's it's incorrect. But nobody could say that, can they? So this is where we have to do it.
Nobody can say that.
Let's underline it with quantum mechanics.
But we are saying it. We, the flat earthers who are ridiculed, are the ones saying it currently. Now, you're correct, because from the 50s, there's been a changing of the guard. So there's got to be a change. What is currently giving us our technology is incompatible with a heliocentric model. It's just as simple as that. Now, as much as these astrophysicists may want to square the circle and say that the cause and effect reasoning used in quantum mechanics needs to somehow explain their fourth dimensional geometry, it can't. It's debunking it. So they can invent all the quantum foam that they want, all the quantum gravity that they can try and conjure in their maths, won't change what has been the case for about 50 or 60 years, probably longer. They've been debunked. It's incompatible. So they can't say it, Adam. So what do? There's got to be a changing of the guard. It doesn't work anymore. So how do you do that? Introduce it by some messenger that they don't care about having shot. Right? In this case, the thing that's actually being debunked in terms of heliocentrism leaves us with a flat Earth. So why not have the ridiculed flat earthers be the one that points out that quantum mechanics is the very thing that's debunking Einsteinian and Newtonian gravity simultaneously? Why not have us do it? Soften the people up for it so that when eventually, they brace against it, they fight against it, they kick and scream, and then they accept it as their reality. But they don't want the kicking and screaming a bit to come from us. They want the kicking and screaming bit, by us, I mean the powers that should not be. They don't want it to go towards them. They want it aimed towards us, somebody that's already hated. So we can soften the public up towards it, rather than them, because they'll be ridiculed and hated like we are. So isn't that the best way to soften up those 4 stages of hatred and ridicule and have everybody brace against us, rather than the people who've actually lied to them, like these astrophysicists, while they chuckle about how they're cleverly indoctrinating the children and show the audience how wrong they are? Because they're all confessing it at the moment. Veritasium's just one tiny example. They're doing it. We're seeing it now. So if they're admitting it and they understand it, then what's left to do? Just disseminate that to the people, and that's what we're doing.
Well, I think what we should pay attention to here, more so, and we're looking straight past it, is any one of us could call what was going to happen here from the very start of this series of videos. Any one of us knew the progression it was going to take. We knew what she was going to do and what was going to happen. And exactly as was said on this show is exactly what happened. Because we have their number. We have the Indian sign on them. They know this. That's why they need to make sure that we don't get heard in the way that you just spoke about, Nathan. They need to make sure that we're hated because we are the problem for them. We can detail to the public exactly what they're going to do, right from A through to Z, and then show that that's exactly what they do. Our predictions are solid. Go on, Neil.
But they'll still call us dumb flat earthers.
Quick couple of shout outs to Flat Earth Travolta, who's gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much indeed. And also, shout out to Godzilla37, who says, shout out to Flat Earth Travolta, very generous. Really appreciate both of your support. Thank you very much indeed.
That's
Sorry,
the main thing.
Neil.
Call them dumb flat earthers, and that's it.
I think
Two different.
Come on.
Just bring us back to that. I think this is the first bit of the video, and I'm actually seeing honesty, or at least bar those couple of embedded confessions. But this is a more honest talk without admitting it. But if you're listening to them, they both know. They both know, don't they? This is bullshit.
Different
So
space times.
Yeah, it's how do we say it like and still maintain our status? Yeah, but have to admit it because they're at the same level.
It's because we're catching the mid-paradigm shift, right? They're, I mean, even in their mainstream, they know that this Einsteinian gravity is nonsense. But some of them say it. Some of them have arguments with others, right? But being that it's still mainstream, they still gotta push it out there. But they'll give you the slight hints, the little disclaimers that Einstein might be out the door soon. And that's what I think we're in the middle of right now.
Whizzing by in the chat as we speak, we've got Divergent Droid, who's a superb moderator, letting you know to let these people know that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So ideally, there's a good nearly 90 people watching. Go and click the link that's going by now. I'll stick it in there as well. And just say, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. and then potentially a nice comment that won't get removed to let them know that we responded to their video. Obviously, don't disseminate the outrage that's currently going to be coming from my seat towards them. But, let them know. The idea being that should they respond with their 10 million subscribers, they would put a link to my video so that I would get some algorithmic love in response. But in the YouTube sense of it, go and share the algorithmic love with them, leave them a comment, let them know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Thank you very much, Divergent Droid, for reminding me to do that.
And add them together, because one of the crazy things about quantum mechanics, as you know, is take
Add the waves together.
Yeah, any two states, any two possible states of the world, you can just literally put a plus sign between them, and that's a sensible state. That's a good state. It makes sense.
So do you think
So speed of light, debunked.
that there's some sense in which we shouldn't be thinking about individual universes, individual space-time, so we should be thinking about superpositions of space-time?
So why should you be thinking about anything when you've got cause and effect reasoning in the quantum mechanical description that you just gave? So what, because you've got these established facts through science, what do we need to think about with our bullshit that we disseminated about space-time? What should we be thinking about next? Well, we need to be thinking about, he's already told you, how to somehow fudge quantum mechanics into your nonsense 4D space-time. That's what you need to be thinking about, love. He's already told you. Pay attention.
Just again, language. I'm hearing a different thing. I'm hearing this is just softening the admission. So when she says, should we be thinking about it? So loaded. If both of you know, it's bollocks. Yeah. So that statement is kind of saying, come on, criticize it. No, we shouldn't be working in this field anymore. We shouldn't be putting our energies in this field because we know, as elegant as the language is, it's not relevant. It doesn't describe reality. That's another big admission to me there, because she's saying it to him, who's obviously is either PhD, and the PhD knows that.
That language made it into a Disney movie. Just on a sidetrack for a second. I called my wife in because kids were watching some. I think it was Disney, like Monster from the Deep or something like that. The giant monster. I can't remember the name of the movie was, but at some point they get tossed into the drink by this big monster, and they're trying to fight it, and the girl prevents the win for this big buff guy. And as he walks up to her and says, "I could have had it if you hadn't bollocksed it up." Now he's got an English accent, but I'm like, perhaps they don't know that this seemingly quaint English idiom is, I've forgotten what the other word is. That word isn't what they perhaps think it might be. So saying something's been bollocksed up, it shouldn't be making it into a Disney movie. Let's just put it that way.
No.
This hasn't been bollocksed up. This just is bollocks. That's what I'm. Well, if you've got somebody that's just pulled all of that and then says to her peer, should we even be thinking about this? That's a really profound statement for her to make. Is anything that we're doing worthwhile, is what she's saying. Should we even be thinking about this? That's a real big indictment.
A very big indictment. So let me make it larger and more obvious by dumbing it down slightly. If I add on a few paraphrase statements to her question, which is to say, her question would be as follows. Given that I have just indoctrinated a series of students about this being absolutely the case, is it worth us even thinking about it? Given that we've just spent a prolonged period indoctrinating people with it, should we even be thinking about it? What disgrace!
Yeah, but you see, this is why they must claim that science doesn't prove anything. So they can get out of one suit and into another as they feel the need to. They're not held to any standard. And that's the problem. There's no standard. Because nothing proves anything, according to them. Science doesn't prove anything. Or it only, when they're pushed to it, it only disproves things, which is proving something. And which is wrong too, because it either proves or disproves. That's what actual science does. Scientific method. So this is what they're at. They're going to use this rubbish to move away from Einstein and not exactly throw him under the bus because they can't do that yet. But in time, he'll be kind of like Newton, where he had some good ideas, but they weren't 100% correct. And if they have to, they'll use someone like Feynman, who's passed away, in lieu of whoever, in lieu of someone in the future, or some what they would call a scientific theory in the future, which is not a scientific theory, that they're going to use to bolster up more nonsense. Because they're desperate now. They're desperate because people like us are out there.
Did you just say that science neither proves nor disproves?
That's what they say.
He said that they would say it doesn't prove anything, and then when push comes to shove, they'd say it only disproves, which is ultimately proving something, and also wrong. Because, as Brian pointed out, it's either proving or disproving your alternative hypothesis, or disproving or proving your null hypothesis, but one or other will be proven when the other is disproven, and vice versa. If you disprove one, you prove the other. So Brian is correct.
So the scientific method is their enemy.
I just misheard what he said. I thought he said something different.
No, he's spot on. Scientific method is their enemy, but they've hijacked all of the terminology that implies proof. And then when proof comes along that disproves their nonsense assertions and just so stories, they quickly go, how can we jump on the bandwagon of this proven science and incorporate it into our pseudoscience 4D geometry? That's what the question they're essentially asking. She's replying by going, is it even worth talking about the 4D geometry that I just indoctrinated several children with at various stages of their education?
Who then grow up those same children then grow up, they get a computer, they go on the internet, they find a chat room on YouTube, and then start preaching that gospel as though they understand it, they know it's true, and then they start calling people names. And in fact, cyberbullying is a strong word, but that's essentially the practice that they engage in.
Go on, Chocolate.
I was going to say, didn't we listen to one of these videos and review it when one of these cats said, like, literally was speaking for an hour, and then at the end of it said, all the knowledge that we have, we've never actually seen? Like, these little embedded confessions are all over the place if you actually listen to what these people are saying.
Yep.
They tell you straight up, this is nonsense.
It's double speak. Like, you see it a lot with Rumpus, but when you recognize it, when you learn that's what they're doing, and then someone points out to you double speak, you then see it all the time, and then you realize how many people don't see it, and it kind of puts you in like a position of self-elevation because you realize that you see what they don't see, and they can't see it for whatever reason. So you're just sat there kind of like omnipresent. You're in the conversation, you see what's going on, you smile to yourself and just think, there's the double speak. You can see the moment in the conversation where it turns. But unless you learn that and spot it, like, because most people don't even know it's there. But when you do get told it's there, you then start looking for it. And that's what we all listen for. We all listen for the keywords. When they say certain things, we know that they're going to go in a particular direction. When they know when they start going in that direction, you just got to listen for the contradiction and pay attention, because like they're going to do it at some point.
That was next level bear poking from Anthony. So I just got to give some props right there. That was multiple levels of bear poking. That was, if you dumb down what Anthony said, we used to be where you complete clowns who believe you're on a globe were. And as we've learned your ways, we've realised how stupid you are. We, as a result of realising how stupid you are godlike. Don't you feel pathetic? That's what Anthony has just said.
That's exactly it. But it's also true that when we realise that they're like double speaking and they don't even realise it, and we point it out and we get ridiculed, scorned, name called, all that nonsense, you can only sit back and just go, Jesus Christ, this is why education is the way it is, because it's spawning these people that don't realize that they're double talking. Like, a lot of them know that they're double talking, like the protagonists, like Rumpus and Paul Voigt and all those idiots. They know that they're doing it and they hide it because you can hear them smiling when they're talking, right? But the average Dawn Treader, PMARS, those drongos, they don't know that they're doing it. They're too stupid to realize they're stupid. That is literally
you need to get with the 2023 anti-flat Earth opponents. So let's just give you a few. So you need to say the Simon Dans and the Dave McKeegans, just to update you.
I don't mind them doing that, but I think what's pertinent in this video particularly is how these senior academics are wasting children's lives. and mugging them off. And that you hear how Nathan gets so irate about it, and it's quite rightly so, because fundamentally we've got to the PhD and they're just laughing at these people. Should we even be thinking about this? It's such a load of bollocks. Yeah. Yet you've just gave a little girl who spent what her holidays revising this crap, applying it, thinking she's going to make a difference in the world if she knows it. You're just mugging these children off. Fundamentally, that's abuse.
It is abuse. I agree, and that's why. Who was it that used to? It was Craig McNeil, wasn't it? He would always project that Bev was abusing children because Bev did da. Yeah, he's guilty of the same thing. He's not guilty of this. He's guilty of that himself. It's called projection. And when you see somebody throwing stones, 9 times out of 10 they are projecting, and that is what he's doing.
I just want to add something there. That wasn't what I was going to say a second ago. I'll say that in a moment. But Craig accused Bev of child abuse because he was teaching his son that level and horizontal are the same thing. Just saying day to day, someone who doesn't know any different could think that the wrong thing. Just even though I don't have anything to do with Bev these days, I won't have that happen. I'm not saying we're doing it on purpose, right, Anthony. It just wasn't correct. It just didn't fill in the blanks.
Away from.
But
that.
anyway,
what I'd like to ask is why the Wired Witch didn't say to the child and say Newtonian, Einsteinian. We shouldn't even be thinking about this. It's fundamentally wrong. Now let's start teaching you what we do know. But she didn't, did she? She patted her on the head when she repeated the incorrect stuff that she sneers at later on.
Yes, which is that's the exact reason. That's the exact reason why people like conspiracy cats, when they teach that gas pressure, they'll teach children all day that gas pressure does need a container, and they'll talk about gas cylinders and how you can calculate using PV equals nRT, and they'll deliberately not tell them what the V stands for, and then they'll say the atmosphere where there's no container, it's an open system, and they'll expect them to just believe that gas pressure can exist without a container because and that is literally abuse because they know it's wrong. In his case, he absolutely knows it's wrong, but he'll teach it anyway because, quote, it's his job. That's why education's wrong.
They'll also say pressurized gas is different than gas pressure. It's the same thing.
Although his argument was gas pressure is not the same as pressurized gas, apparently, or something along them lines. Sorry, Brian, go on.
No, what I was focusing on about what I wanted to focus on in what she said, why are we even talking about it? To me, that sounds like it's time to stop mentioning Einstein. That's what that says to me. It's time we just stop talking about it.
Should we be even talking about it? That's why I raised it. Should we? Is there a reason that we should be discussing this anymore? Because it's nonsense. Should we even be talking about it anymore? No, we shouldn't, should we? But they are. Just one thing, Nathan. Just if Rachie doesn't get it, then in terms of what you're asking to do with this video and responding, if I'll just read a comment, maybe you just reiterate what we're asking and why. Rachie says, rather than saying you sent me, wouldn't it be better to say you responded to their video as they may think you recommended their channel? Do you want to reiterate what you're asking people to do when we post this link to the Wired?
I am recommending their channel. Algorithmically, I'm doing the opposite of what you would expect, so I can understand the confusion. I am literally suggesting that you go to their comment and help them in the algorithm by leaving a comment that specifically says, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The idea being that should they respond to the comments that says, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, they'd put a link to my video. Algorithmically, we get no love. The only way we do get love is by people sharing the video or mentioning me in their video and putting a link to my video in theirs. That's the only way we get the show to grow. So, yeah, I am actually recommending their channel. That's literally what I'm doing. But this is one big advert for Wired. It's right there on screen, isn't it? So if you can't get away from the fact that I am literally promoting this nonsense by talking about it, it works both ways. If you think about there's no such thing as bad press, well, it's kind of the reverse idea. This isn't good press for them. I'm pulling apart the nonsense, as is everyone on the panel. But we're saying go and let them know we're pulling apart their nonsense, which will help them algorithmically. Likewise, when people come back, if they were to put a link to my video in theirs and say, this guy responded to us saying that gravity was unreasonably peddled when it's a lie that we admitted to at the end of our video. Here's his link. Yeah, chance would be a fine thing. But maybe, but that's the idea. Is that what you meant, Adam?
72% say child abuse.
Well, I'm hoping that we'll go to Anthony on that regard. He maybe doesn't know that I've put out a poll. I don't normally do that. But in this case, I think it's worthy, especially as we've got Anthony on the panel right now. Did you see that I put a poll out, Anthony?
No, go on. What was the question?
Is indoctrinating children with the nonsense of gravity child abuse?
Indoctrinating children with anything is child abuse in my view, because if you teach them any particular story of any particular, it doesn't matter whether it's religion, doesn't matter whether it's so-called science, doesn't matter what it is. If you indoctrinate children to believe that they're a chicken when they're not a chicken, then that is child abuse. It's that simple, that you're not a chicken. If you I have real problems with this non-binary stuff, and I know this is really off topic, but just one sentence. I struggle with the notion that you can be non-binary. This notion that people are pushing it right now, all over the telly, all over the radio, and all that, is that non-binary is a thing. And I'm like, but it's not though, is it? You're either one or the other, not both. You can't be non-binary. There's no such sex as none. You're either one or the other.
Check it out.
It's not both or neither.
I give Anthony a really cracking segue to work. Fantastic work, strenuous work, time-consuming work that he's done on this subject. And he takes it as an opportunity to drop down a soapbox about transgender issues. Ugh.
I think just to pull it back, he makes a good point. And I don't need to mention the topic again, but it's a conversation that's now happening in society because society's only just realized that this was a thing. It's been challenged by society and society's kicking back. Now, if I was to put that back to gravity, if the mass populace were to suddenly understand what's been laid down here over these few shows and be given that, how would they view it that their children are having their lives wasted, being taught something that when they get to graduate level, they will sneer at it as a load of nonsense? That's kind of the thing that I see in society will respond if it's aware. That's demonstrated in Tony's point. And I think if we can get it to that, then I do think the poll that 74%, 26 would view it like that it is abusing a child and wasting their life, more importantly to me.
Another example.
Just before you give the other example. Right, so this speaks to Rachie as well. Maybe she was asking. I didn't actually read a comment, but this is why I want people to share the show. If somebody stumbles across a comment that says Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, there's a reasonable chance that they'll search the one thing that will actually bring me up as a channel. Yeah? But if they don't see any of the comments that say Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, they won't find me. That is just that simple. There is only so much that the people who are regulars sharing the show can do. But when the new person who comes from that comment hears me say, please share the show, and maybe has an explanation lengthy like this one, that's the only way we get any algorithmic love and grow the show and do what Adam's hoping will happen, which is make the general public aware that their children are being lied to. And like in this example, after the fact, metaphorically, this is the coffee room for the teachers after the lesson, where they sit down with each other and say, should we even really be talking about this stuff that I've literally just gone through a lesson plan teaching? That's what's happening. But we need to spread the love. Less than 100 people watching. The numbers are going down again. That's why I talked about this the other day. We're getting even less love, which means we are right over the target currently. So it's more important than ever, although I've probably burnt out my invite to do so by saying it so often. But now more than ever, it's important that the shows go out shared, so that people can hear this. They can see it. They can see the people with 10 million views or 10 million subscribers sat in the coffee room after the lesson saying, is this all nonsense or what? Should we even be talking about this, given that there's quantum mechanics? Smokes fag, drinks coffee, laughs about the children they're lying to.
Another example of abuse that we may be able to relate to, but it's not immediately obvious, is financial abuse. you often find spouses that are living together, married, or cohabiting, whichever, and you find that one of them that's the breadwinner, typically the bloke, can often use money as a financial weapon to control and restrict behavior, and it's called financial abuse. If you're not aware, look it up. You'll find out. You'll be aware. You'll recognize it.
Okay,
but you may not have known it.
This is lovely. This is really nice, but this isn't the Monsters channel. You know what I mean? We haven't just gone to a true crime story.
The point I'm making is you can abuse somebody with financial like abstinence. You can take the money away from them. That's considered abuse. How is it any different to teaching children stuff that's not true?
Okay.
That's the comparison.
Fine, there was a segue there. I was too hasty. 10 more seconds and you'd have got away with it much quicker. Thank you, Anthony.
I'm just on screen before you start the vid again. I was just testing something. So I've just gone to the video and said hi at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. It's quite good if you put the at in, because if you then copy that up there, all some person's got to do is that, and that you do come up with the at Nathan at the top. If you could stick the at Nathan Oakley, capital N, capital O, that'll hope if somebody does hit the link, hopefully they then find Nathan as well.
Exactly. I didn't realise. I did know that, but I should have been more aware to say at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. But in any event, yeah, the effect is the same anyway. It's something I stole from Russian vids, actually. He used to do it. He doesn't do it so much now. Yeah, resounding positive result from the poll that we did in the live chat. So 75%? No, 79%. I can't quite read. 75%.
75-25 I've got.
75-25. So 3/4 of the people think it's abuse. And I would agree. I mean, that's why we're doing this, right? Yeah, we're going to have a certain number of globe believers that go, no, it's perfectly acceptable to tell a kid that the force of gravity holds them to the ground and then in the coffee room afterwards question whether or not the 4D space-time that replaced it's worth talking about. Perfectly legit. Yeah, we're going to have a certain number of people that do that, but hopefully of the 100 people that are watching, please share the show. You at least voted and have an opinion, strong or otherwise, on it.
It definitely is abuse because, like, I distinctly remember it. I remember sitting in class when I was a kid, and I remember them talking to me about stuff like this, like gravity and hocus pocus nonsense, right? And regardless of whether or not it was true, if somebody would have said to me, by the way, this is only one interpretation of the world. There are other opposing views to this that we may not necessarily agree with, but we're obligated to tell you about because that's in the national curriculum, because we can't teach you one-sided stuff. Here's the opposing views. And if you want to know more about them, go and read these. And then they'll list them, right? If somebody would have said to me that, I'd have gone, well, why are we, if it's not true and there are opposing views, why are we getting taught that? And then the teacher can't go anywhere with that other than say it's on the national curriculum. But if somebody would have told me that this is wrong and to go and look at other areas, because although we're teaching you this isn't actually considered to be true. What's the one thing that any inquisitive kid is going to want to do? They're going to want to ask why. And then the minute they start asking why, you start tying yourself up in knots. But that never happened. But had it have happened, the whole class would turn around and start asking the obvious question. And then immediately it throws the syllabus into disrepute. It throws it into absurdism, which doesn't currently happen. But that's what would happen if you told the kids that, well, this isn't really true. We're just teaching it because it's on the syllabus. And then all of a sudden you've got a whole classroom that's now asking questions, which they previously don't ask the questions because they're not being taught that it's not true or that there's opposing views. They're just being taught it as matter of fact, like chanting to gravity, gravity, gravity. Watch the hypnosis pendulum swinging in front. Gravity, gravity. That's what happens.
And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, gifted memberships, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panel for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you are watching on either Programming stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Anyway,
I did tell you that it was going to be one of them games where Liverpool win 1-0, it's dead scruffy, or it'll be one of those like we'll win 6-5.
It was the latter. Anyway, yeah, well done, mate. Congratulations.
I'm willing
to be honest, I never watched it. And the only reason I looked it up was because of you. Otherwise, I'd have forgotten about it completely.
I want to carry on with this tomorrow. So I know Brian will moan about this, but I think it's worthy of keeping doing this in the live show. I know it's like this has been the best video we have covered so far, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've sent you a video. I don't think anybody's watched it, but it's about, I don't know how long it is, 2.5, 3 minutes, I think. I'll have a quick check. And it's a spoof video. Supposedly, it says joke video, but I didn't think there was anything jokey about it. It kind of summarizes the journey of a physics student of 5 minutes 38. Maybe it's worth finishing it with it, but
Can we do that next? Because 10th Man's off, and he's typically the guy that feeds me videos. So if we can do that after this one, which we may even do 2 more days on this, and I don't mind if we do, to be honest. I want to take our time over it.
Yeah, well, this will be a great finish. Like I say, it's tongue in cheek, but it's describing what we're describing. I think from the view of a physics student, so it's very good. You might want to watch it first.
I will. I don't mind going in hot. That sounds good.
Yeah. It's not one that you want to be interrupting. You just want to let it play. You're not going to disagree with it. There's nothing to disagree with because you're describing the changes of stuff and then what am I doing? So just maybe break it just so you don't get copyright. Just, I'd say, a nice summary of kind of what we're highlighting with these interviews.
Can I talk about computers for a sec?
Go on, man.
So I've been watching this guy I like called Buildzoid, who does memory tuning and overclocking and various other things. And he's been moaning about the latest generation of computers because their memory isn't stable at any decent speeds. And just all of the experiences that I've had, he echoes, but in a he knows more than I do kind of way, which I appreciate. And he was moaning because he's got his memory completely stable after me watching him for 6 months doing this fiddling around with my new computer. Thank you very much, Paul. He's on the panel. Thank you very much for the computer and everyone who supported the GoFundMe. Anyway, he was moaning because you could get it stable to the point where it would run for 24 hours on a test and then return 1 error. Right? Which means it's not stable. You know, he's got to run with no errors returned. And he's like, this is the most frustrating thing in the world because you've got it to the point of stability and then you get 1 error, right? And I was watching this thinking, thank God I got mine stable. Anyway, I'll get to the point of my story. We'll conclude in a second. Said to my wife today, I just checked on the automatic overclock for the graphics card, and it's a month ago since I did it, which means that the computer has been stable for 1 solid month. Hooray! She's like, oh, that's really good. You're right. You know, you haven't fiddled with it. You haven't faffed with it. Good, good. She walks out the door, literally press go, got everything set up, and it said encoder overload, which I know is a memory problem. I know it's memory. I was like, bloody hell, fire. The second I say to my wife that it's stable. But that just to draw a comparison, that is the equivalent to Buildzoid running it on a really intense stress test for 24 hours and getting 1 error. Because all I've done is restart the computer. I haven't changed any settings. I mean, I will after the show's done. I'll up the voltage a little bit on the memory. But, you know, it's just, that's that 1 error. You know what I mean? 99.99% of the time, it's completely stable. But then just once in a while, if there's just the wrong amount of EMP from the sun, it's not.
Nathan, have you considered using a surge protector or an uninterrupted power supply?
That's got nothing to do with the memory being stable.
Power does weird things to electronics, and if you've got dirty power going to your machine, your equipment, it can cause stuff like that to happen.
What have you been watching?
You know, you've had your amps.
What a load of bollocks! Someone said that about the amps. Yeah, it's complete bollocks, right? The whole when people talk about mains conditioning, it's like, what the hell do you think an amplifier's doing? That's its purpose. If your amplifier's making mains noise, then it's broken. Because that's what it's for. It's to take mains voltage at AC 240 60 hertz and turn it into power that can move a speaker in and out. If you can hear AC 240, right, either you've got something like a guitar pickup that's literally picking it up, right, through the air, the hum, or your equipment's broken. And it's the same with the computer. What do you think your PSU does inside the computer? If it's not filtering that shit, then it's not working properly. It's not doing its job.
Well, to be honest, as far as I'm aware, the power supply inside a computer doesn't filter it. It relies on what comes in.
That's all it does.
Well,
me not being a computer buff, just Tony, does dirty power come from the same place dirty air comes from?
Yeah, it comes. So dirty power is where, like, if you live too far away from the power plant and the power plant that supplies you isn't able to continuously give you a constant, stable supply of power, and it fluctuates, so that you feel the effect when people turn the kettle on.
Yes,
and
that's
then you
right.
feel the effect when
it means nothing to an amplifier that's designed specifically to deal with that. That's what it does. That's its job. Yeah.
You're all right with voltage drops.
Okay, let's put it this way. Right? I used to, I didn't sell them, but I used to work in a shop that sold mains conditioners to hi-fi enthusiasts. Now, similar to when I refused, when I was a pawnbroker, to sell payday loans. I just wouldn't do them. I felt they were immoral. I felt the same about mains conditioning. It's immoral. It's complete nonsense. Right, so number one. So you plug in your mains conditioner. We're not talking about uninterrupted power supplies. That's something different. In other words, if your power gets cut, you still have a certain amount of time to shut everything down because it's basically a big battery. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about filtration, right? So you're telling me from the consumer unit through your walls to the plug, that's fine to have all sorts of crap on it. But once it gets to the plug, then you'll filter it and then give it to the power amplifier or to the PC. What about all the crap that's come along the wall? Oh, well, the answer to the guy who is in a hi-fi shop, by way of the owner of the shop, well, you need to rip all your walls out and spend at least £50 a metre on this Sonic Link mains cable from your consumer unit. That's how you really solve the problem of dirty mains that the amplifier is designed to sort out to power your speakers with. It's just nonsense. It's just a way of bleeding people for money, as far as I was concerned.
I know, but I think that's a false equivalence, though, because like the analogy that you should be using is if you think about a bucket that gets an irregular supply of water. So, like, instead of it being a constant supply, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. But the output from the bucket is a continuous flow, regardless of the input. That's what the uninterrupted power supply does.
That's what the amplifier does. That's what the PSU does. That's its job. If you look at a mains filtration unit from a hi-fi manufacturer, what's inside is basically an amplifier. That's what's inside it. So you buy an amplifier to smooth out your mains to pass on to your amplifier. It's just stupid. Oh, I don't know. You feel free to feel that mains that's dirty is. It means nothing. It's just stupid.
I don't agree, though. I don't like at the end of it. It don't matter. At the end of the day, it's just something to consider. If you rule it out, then you rule it out. But for me, it's like it's a steady and stable supply of power coming in that you can control and regulate, rather than relying on fluctuations. Which, at the end of the day, the delicate equipment, aren't they? These computers, they run on millivolts.
Yeah,
and if you're getting surges, it's the
that's
surges
why you
that
buy
cause
a
the
good
problem,
power
not the drops.
supply. That's why you spend £100 to £200 on a decent power supply for your computer, rather than one that costs £30 that might deal out surges because it's a crap power supply. Therefore, gives you surges and fries your motherboard. Yeah, that's why you buy a good power supply. The last computer I had, which has now been given to Bobby Zines, that's got a £250 power supply in it. Well, I put it in when the computer was worth far less than that. Why? Because I wanted a really good power supply. So if the surges and nastiness and all the rest of it, it doesn't affect the show. That's the point of buying a good power supply or a good power amplifier. When you said takes your bucket analogy is literally the analogy of what an amplifier is doing. That's what it's doing.
Yeah, but not all amplifiers are good amplifiers, though, right?
Well, currently, probably not. All amplifiers are good amplifiers. I mean, you've got, with the exception of some really terrible Chinese ones, but mainly because they're low-power chip amps. I can't think of any bad amplifiers. The technology is so ancient and so easy to do. We've got a bit of quantum mechanics to thank with MOSFETs and semiconductors. Let's not forget that.
But if you're comparing power supplies to cheap ones, if you're comparing power supplies to amplifiers and saying there's no bad amplifiers, there definitely are cheap shit power supplies, like Chinese ones that have got like really crap components in them that you don't want to put them in your computer. So that statement can't be true. What you said.
No, it is true. What I'm saying, when I said if you've got an amplifier that's introducing interference, doesn't matter if it's mains born, airborne, or whatever else, wherever the interference is coming from is irrelevant. If it doesn't filter that out, then it's a crap amplifier or a crap power supply for your computer because it's not filtering that out. That's what makes it crap. But saying, oh, well, I'll buy a mains conditioner, it's like, no, buy a good amplifier. Buy a good power supply for your computer.
Well, you said that there are no bad ones.
You said, are there any bad amplifiers? Well, currently, because the technology for an amplifier is so cheap, you can get an amplifier that will power speakers for pennies, just next to nothing. Well, is that one going to be cheap? Will you hear mains noise on it? Yeah, because it's a cheap amplifier. If you buy a semi-decent £100 or more amplifier, will it have crap filtration? I doubt it. It'd probably be perfectly sufficient. Same with a PC power supply. If you spend £100 on a power supply for your computer, I'm not saying just because it's £100 it's going to be good, but there's a good chance it'll be semi-decent. Anyway, I don't know how we got on this conversation. I see all sorts. I used to see so much shit in the hi-fi industry that used to make me laugh. I remember one cable manufacturer showing that they would decrease the power loss over time through their cable, and they showed it on a graph. And I was like, what this graph is showing is that this cable introduces power. It's like if you had a cable long enough, you wouldn't need an amplifier. It's just, that's the kind of crap that they'd peddle to hi-fi enthusiasts. It's all smoke and mirrors. I don't know. There's something about the hi-fi industry that I now hate. It's the fact that it's completely unregulated. So
there's lots of snake oil in the hi-fi.
Totally riddled with snake oil.
I've just got this image of Rumpus with a jar of snake oil.
People selling jars of rocks for £1,000 in hi-fi. What are the rocks for? You place them on top of your cables. Why? Stop the vibrations. Well, that's just an over-exaggerated extrapolation of you saying mains-borne interference. It's the same spun out of a mild truth. Yeah, if you've got a really crap amplifier, it doesn't do a very good job of filtering your mains when it takes that power and turns it into a different type of power that's regulated by frequency. But that's all the amplifier does. So if it's buzzing, it's crap. Yeah, well, why is it buzzing? Well, it cost me £30. Well, that's because it's not got very good filtration in it. Answer, I'll buy a £250 mains filtration unit. No. Go buy a better amp.
Also, poorly designed cables that pick up RF and whatnot. Poorly insulated cables that act as antennas.
Again, not since people use bell wire for speaker cables. I mean, I remember a guy doing a demonstration showing this off with single-ended cables instead of balanced cables, right? So balanced has both an inverted version of the signal and the standard version of the signal on one cable, so that it self-cancels. What you're left with is only the signal, therefore no interference. Well, you can just transmit the signal and a ground. So therefore, in theory, it's susceptible to interference. Well, no, it's got shielded cable. So this guy took it, a really crappy cable, wasn't even of a high standard, Chinesium cable, 50p, and started putting all sorts of things that generated all sorts of crazy EM and crazy stuff that would interfere, or people would assume did, and he couldn't get it to do it. It's like, this manufacturing process for a bit of wire these days is high enough that it just doesn't pick up interference anymore. This isn't the 50s. We're not talking about, coils around guitar pickups picking up mains, but that's where this truth has come from. Yeah, if you've got a guitar pickup and it's right next to something that's generating a mains buzz, it hears the mains buzz and amplifies the mains buzz. So what do you hear through the guitar cab? You hear, you hear 60 hertz mains buzz through it because it's picking it up through the guitar pickup. Well, that was solved in the 50s with humbuckers, You know, but that truth is spun out into an amplifier's got mains hum on it. No, it might be picking it up on some microphonic lead that you've got that's not terminated properly, or something that's wired incorrectly, or you've got a ground loop. But filtering mains, what the bloody hell are you talking about? I used to take my stuff when I was a rep, hi-fi rep, out to countries where they'd show you the mains that you were going to plug this amplifier into, and it was hanging off the wall, and the mains quality, the supply itself, was semi-lethal 90% of the time. You'd be terrified just to plug something into it. Did it have mains coming through it? Yeah. Was it riddled? Was the waveform perfectly 60 hertz? No. It was horrendous. But the amplifier sorted all that out. You plugged that in and it worked. You know. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we've got on this conversation.
Because the rabbit hole for the hi-fi is deep.
I loved the fact that I got into YouTube after hi-fi because it meant that I was opened up to the world of pro audio. No nonsense, no overinflated prices, no bullshit, and people who aren't interested in the nuances of whether or not a bloody hi-fi amp can make things sound better. Just, it needs to function correctly and not break and not cost too much money. That's pro audio. I love that. That's much better. Everyone in it's totally no nonsense. They're not sitting around listening to amplifiers. They're working. And the amplifier's in some room somewhere away from them with fans running on it to keep it cool. They don't care. They just want it to produce sound out of the speakers so they can work with it. Hi-fi nutters are just sat in front of different amplifiers going, oh, this one sounds better. How do you know it's been more than 5 seconds? How would you know it sounds better? Anyway. I gave you my...
What were we talking about?
I was going to go on to acoustic treatment. I told you yesterday about the guy that literally paid me to give him a consultation about acoustic treatment. And for all the thousands of pounds back in the day I used to spend on audio equipment, over the years, dripping money into acoustic treatment has absolutely transformed the audio of both my recording and playback. My monitoring system is second to none now. Nothing to do with anything to do with the equipment whatsoever. In fact, it's been downgraded. Everything to do with the acoustics of the room. And why wouldn't it be? You're talking about how you hear things, and the room is just the sound coming out of whatever sound source, me in this case now talking, bouncing around the room. That's all it is. So it makes a lot more sense if you're an enthusiastic person wanting to make music sound better, that you'd buy the cheapest possible hi-fi that doesn't buzz, Anthony, and then just treat your room. Spend all the money on that, and you'd be a lot more happy. But of course, that doesn't help with electronics manufacturers.
I'll tell you what, I listen to other shows, and it can't compare to the show. You made my ears attentive to it. So I listen for that. A lot of shows you hear echo and feedback. And this show's like crystal.
I was explaining that to Paul earlier. It's thanks to Be Here and Love and Patricia Steer. So Patricia Steer and I were both making a show at the same time that was fairly basic, just a guest. Easy enough to do because the software that you're running the guest in will sort out all of those problems. But as soon as you start linking different pieces of software together, it becomes a lot more complicated. You've got to have a desk. Well, when I first got my desk, I had to figure out how it will work with no help from the internet. So it was Be Here and Love on Skype, Patricia Steer on G+, and me on my mic, figuring out how to connect them all together so they didn't echo and they could all talk to each other. It took ages. Now, after doing that much, much later on down the line, I found a video that was about 10 minutes long that I've now shared in Masturbators, that just shows you how to do it. It's just one guy summarising it, explaining his woes, same as me, going, I couldn't find our video that showed you how to do this. I had to figure out it was really hard. Here's how you do it. And I've sent that to Flatzoid, hoping that he'll just spend the $5 on the 2 virtual audio cables. Anthony knows what I'm talking about. And it is a pain in the ass to get it working correctly. It does take a bit of discipline to sit in front of it and figure it out. Or, if you've got a 10-minute tutorial, go through it step by step and try and understand what he's telling you as you do each button press. But now that that's done, yeah, you don't get any echo. And when you do, I'm on it all over it and trying to figure out where it's coming from because I know how my desk works. And I can usually solve it while a live show's running. But that's really hard. But I'd like to think that, you know, comparatively speaking, and this might sound grandiose, that someone like Joe Rogan, who's literally got the quality of the person sat in front of him with a mic that's going into one desk that's running not through multiple pieces of software. I want to be comparative to him when he's got everything ideally controlled and I've got various software with connections to people. I want it to sound as good.
Not going to if Tony leaves his mark open and the dog.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Yeah, I'm
that.
just going to say, Anthony, what are you sabotaging this?
Go on, Neil.
No, I'm saying Anthony's trying to sabotage this. What's the matter?
No, he's not. What do you mean, sabotage me?
Literally, as Nathan is talking about how good it sounds.
Yeah.
Perfect
Sorry.
time, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. That goes without saying.
And then you say it to him, and he'll say, yeah. Right, Anthony? Yeah.
But the point is, I take it seriously, as do you. None of you would be giving up your time if I didn't take this super serial.
Super cereal?
Super serial.
Is that a new brand?
From South Park. Don't worry about it.
I stopped watching South Park when I was about 17, Nathan.
Me too. Doesn't mean I can't remember all the references. I'm getting a
Oh,
clue.
right.
I'm getting a raging clue.
I hadn't watched it for years. And it comes back to Meghan Markle until there was all that stuff on the telly with the Prince and Princess of Canada. A very good parody of him. That's what you should watch if you want to catch up. We want our privacy. We want our privacy. Very good.
Yeah, like I
Did
say,
they
I take
give
it.
them the flapping heads too, like all the Canadians in the show.
Yeah,
I'm not your buddy, pal.
I haven't seen that.
But yeah,
Not your pal, friend.
I want the show to have longevity. Basically, I want people to come back to it, and the fact that the show hasn't got 500,000 people watching doesn't mean that 5 years from now the paradigm might entirely shift. Now that might mean that this show is no longer evergreen if the paradigm did shift, which is both positive and negative. But it means that suddenly the importance of the quality of the shows that preceded this one today are of paramount importance, because people are now, and they have been, trickling back to the old shows. And sometimes when they go back far enough, they go, wow, it did really sound terrible back in the day. You're like, yeah, that's what average YouTuber produces. Even good YouTubers that have got 1 million subscribers, I listen to their shows and go, God, you haven't got that aspect of your show very well sorted, like I have. And I feel proud, because I know that when people do go back maybe past 500, 600 FED, they'll have a decent experience while they're actually getting into the real nitty-gritty of us undoing the heliocentric paradigm and proving Earth's flat. All of those shows sound reasonable. And in the last 500, yeah, they've got to a really high standard. But at least they're reasonable when people go back and historically see how the debate has progressed. I see that as really important, hence me wanting to keep the standards high.
The debate has progressed, and the sound quality has progressed. Well done.
Again, a testament to the people who support the show. It's not because we get the numbers, it's because people see the importance of the show. So Paul and all the people who supported the most recent Give, Send, Go have listened to me when I've gone, I just want the show to be a really high standard, and therefore I want 2 speakers fully functioning when I run the show. Today, it's not like I've thought about it. I haven't thought, wow, it sounds really clear. I can just hear everything. And it's nice and quiet. Right? But that's what I was hoping for, to not worry about it. But it means that when we're discussing these aspects or someone wants to get a word in, I don't miss it because I can hear them trying to get a word, or hear Anthony's hijacking of my point about good sound. I can hear that, But it isn't because I'm saying, oh, I'm really chuffed today, I've turned on my amps and they're not broken today. It's because people have gone, yeah, I understand. You just want to do the show so that the show's good, rather than do the show and go, hold on, I can't quite hear you. One of my amps isn't working today.
That's because this group of people we got here, I'm not going to call it a community because I hate that word, but this group of people we got here are ace. Chocolate had a need, bang, it was met. You got a need, bang, it was met. And a shout out to Paul. He sent me something that almost brought me to tears. So the people in this group right here, ace.
Yeah, he sent me a turd in a box too. Oh, I almost cried. But very funny. I thought it was amusing. He's got a funny sense of humour. No, the community is fantastic. It's one of the things that keeps you going, because you do suffer a lot of abuse. You know, as a flat earther, what did Anthony call it earlier? Online or cyberbullying? No, that's the correct term for it, Anthony. It's accepted in society that you can cyberbully flat earthers, right? So you've got to put up with that. Well, a lot of people who have gone through the mill haven't put up with it. They've gone, sod this, and buggered off. Some are dead, but some of them did go sod this and buggered off. And who can blame them? You can only deal with so much ridicule. So when you've got that on your shoulders every single day, you do require a certain level of support if people see it as important. And with something that's paradigm changing, the people who are involved in what we do see it as important as I do. So it's kind of self-perpetuating, the respect that me taking it seriously means people appreciate the information and therefore want me to continue to take it seriously. And it's just like I say, I'm not getting that from YouTube ad revenue. It's all from support, basically. Like 90% of it is from the people who just give me money. You're all ace. Should have really summarised with that right at the end, but that's the point. You are. We've got a fantastic community, as much as Neil hates using the word.
Group of people. Outstanding group of people here.
It is a community, Neil. It's our community. And our community is growing. And as much as I don't want to have us as having an outward appearance that could be described by our opponents as cult-like, by calling us a community, when we spit on the community that disseminates the feast of nonsense garbage that flat earthers do, it doesn't alter the fact that there's a certain responsibility that comes along with building a channel in the way that I've built this channel, which is that we do have a community. Therefore, there is a certain level of obligation to that community that we have built. And make no mistake, Neil, we have built a community, our own community.
That's fine. If it's our own, that's fine. As long as we're excluded from the meatballs, I'm good.
Are we still on audio?
Say again?
We're still on audio because my SLA4 has arrived. So thanks for finding that for me.
Oh, an SLA4 has arrived?
Yeah.
Was it the one that I tried to buy from eBay?
Yeah.
I tried to buy you that.
Yeah, but I beat you, so.
Check this out.
I found it.
There was an amp on eBay, and I said to Paul, this is what you'd need to power your AV system. It's just a 4-channel amp, the same as the ones that I've got, right? And I got in touch with the guy, and I was like, here's a cheeky offer. I have no need for this amp, but I do actually want to give it to a friend of mine. Can you post it to him? And I gave him an offer of how much cash I had in the bank, quite literally. I was like, that's all I can offer. And then Paul's swooped in and actually bought it for himself. I can't quite believe it.
Yeah, and I found a 2 for 412, so I thought that's pretty good.
That's fantastic.
Brand new. Yeah.
So you've now got 6 channels. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, ideal.
I've got a preamp, and I don't know if I can bridge them to run my 7th speaker, but I might be able to do it without bridging it. So
bridging them? Why did you want to just run 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Oh, whatever.
Well, if it has enough power to run the speaker, from just one channel.
Oh, I see. No, 100 watts is perfectly fine. No, you don't need to bridge them. The one's got 200 watts and the other's got 100 watts. For your centre channel, 100 watts is more than adequate. The problem isn't that you haven't got enough watts on an AV amp. It's that one power supply is feeding lots of channels. So the more that goes on, the less power they get. Whereas with one amp that's a 4-channel running the centre and a couple of rears, and then one that's running the left and right, you've separated out the power supplies enough that it will never be an issue again. But 100 watts is more than adequate.
It's just my preamp has got 2 channels on it. And it should be enough to run my centre speaker, hopefully. Because I have got 6 speakers.
Oh, I see. So you've only got 2 channels from your preamp. Yeah, that could be a problem. You need an AV preamp. Anyway.
I have a way around it, but I'm not going to tell you about it because you might poo-poo it.
You're probably right. But either way, you've got amplifiers that actually power those down audio speakers you've got now, which is great.
Oh, and I've ordered my Beast computer, so I should be building that at the weekend, hopefully.
What, did you buy a 7800X3D in the end?
Yep.
Excellent. Because I looked at
4070 Ti.
Oh, brilliant! That's a really good graphics card. As much as everyone's slagging it off as being awful at the moment, I don't think it's the case. That's a really good graphics card. But yeah, the 7800 X3D. I mean, at the most, it's pulling 120 watts from what I've seen, and that's ideal. You don't even need fans for the case to do that chip, which is perfect.
Yeah,
now
worst
I
case
understand
scenario,
information because you sound like you're talking Chinese.
Looking at computer chips.
Worst case scenario, I can always lap the heatsink and the lids.
I don't think
because
you'll
I've
need
got the-
to. Even if you did, I don't think it makes it. I literally watched a video yesterday by Frame Chasers as he delidded. He actually messed it up doing it and had to buy a second one, but he delidded the chip and he got an extra 300 megahertz, but he didn't get any extra performance. He was like, it's pointless. There's just no point.
No, I would test it first before I did anything. It's just some of them, I don't know, not that true because you need a flat heatsink and you need a flat lid, and sometimes they aren't totally flat. So.
Nah, the one on the Beast is made by EK Waterblocks. It's absolutely excellent.
Yeah, there was a fouling issue with yours, wasn't there?
Yeah, my motherboard was fouling on something, but that's not because the block wasn't completely flat. It was. It's just it wasn't up against it completely because something was stopping it from getting up against it. But, I mean, again, I think when we were talking about it, I said make sure you get one with 2 DIMMs. I don't know if you bought a motherboard that's slightly smaller because it's a 2 DIMM one.
I couldn't find one. They say they're coming out next year, some of them, but
it won't matter.
They tend to,
you haven't got 4 hard drives in there, so there's nothing to foul on it. It's going to be ace and silent. But you will have to undervolt your 4070 Ti though, because that does pull about 280 watts, and it can really only cope with about 230. But you can just turn the voltage down to 70% or something, and it'll be absolutely fine. You'll lose about 5% performance, if that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with this. The GPU in this is a 3070, and it's stock. It's 240 watts from a normal one, but this one's 280 or 300 watts, and there's no way it can cope with it stock. You just have to turn the voltage down, or as I did, add fans. But the most I can get it to do is about 230 watts before it just starts cooking itself and getting to 100 degrees. So yeah, I would definitely suggest turn the voltage down on the 4070 because there's no way it'll cool 280 watts. It just won't do it.
Yeah, and then ended up with an Asus Strix X670E, which seemed to be, most people seem to think that's one of the best motherboards for the AM5. So hopefully that's okay on the
I've no idea.
channels.
I haven't looked at the AM5 just because I haven't got one. I'm sure it's fine. Asus make good motherboards. I'm sure it was horrendous. It was probably over 600 quid, right?
Yeah, and the graphics card is a palette, which I've not really
makes
heard
no
of
difference.
before, but
It
it's supposed to be
absolutely
a
makes
good
no
one.
difference. You're just going to strip everything off it anyway, so who cares? They're all exactly the same. From what I've seen from seeing a few of them being stripped down, 4070 Ti's, that is, the general design is identical for all of them. All they do is give you more power delivery on the better ones, but you don't need it. You're not going to be overclocking it, let's put it that way. If anything, you can be turning it down. So if it's a cheaper one, better to get a cheaper one because it will have less power delivery. So when it's idle, it will actually idle lower in terms of the power that it uses. But yeah, just turn it down. Just install it. Strip everything off. Install it on. It's relatively straightforward if it comes with instructions, if you're building it. And then just turn the power down to 70%. And I've seen people do that. They're boasting about how wonderful these new chips are in terms of efficiency, but they try and get that extra 10% out of them by giving them about 30, 40% more power than they really should have because they just want to beat the competition. So just turn them down by 30% and suddenly they're at their max efficiency.
I just spotted the geometric horizon.
Did you, Al?
Yes.
Do tell.
You can't see
It's
a geometric
over there.
horizon. It's always refracted in the globe model.
Arwen, don't tell him about the one I just sold you.
Yeah, but you can still see the geometric horizon.
It only exists in the maps below surface level.
Correct.
Oh,
It doesn't
nobody's
mean
ever
you can't
claimed
see it.
geometry.
Just because you can't see it where it actually is doesn't mean that you can't see it.
You just said you could see it. You just said you
That
saw.
means it's not there.
No, it's not where it's supposed to be, but you can still see it.
If it's not where it's supposed to be,
No.
then you're not seeing
Because
it. It's not there.
obstructed.
I disagree.
No,
Horizon is not physical.
no, I pointed this out yesterday. Optics require line of sight for something to be seen. So you have to have a line of sight for you to see it. Now, in your model, Orwin, yeah, that horizon is below because it's further away. So it's a different part of the ball. It's below the geometric obstruction. So therefore, it's not visible. There is no line of sight to it. For it to be able to mirage or refract to any point in your eye.
Except for terrestrial refraction, which
No.
is light going around corners in bendy lines.
Yes, but even if you're going to invoke that, for you to be able to see it and invoke that refraction, there still has to be a line of sight to it for it to be able to be shifted into a different position.
Well,
You haven't got
line
the
of
line
sight
of
becomes
sight, it can't
redefined.
be shifted into a different position.
If light can literally move in circular fashion around a corner, then a line of sight becomes redefined by that standard.
If light could, but it can't. So
It only has to be appearing to be in line of sight. It doesn't have to geometrically be in the line of
Wait,
sight.
wait a
I know,
minute.
that's the incorrectness. That's exactly the bit that's incorrect. It does
Wait,
have to be.
Based on
Adam,
what?
You've never seen that movie where these guys were throwing bullets around corners and stuff? That movie Wanted. You can't do. You're saying you can't do the same with light? Come on, man.
No. You know, no. Doesn't go back.
Why not? It's 2023. We could walk on the moon in 1969, but we can't throw light now.
You
around
guys may
corners?
argue against me, but I believe I just saw the geometric horizon. Thanks to
Did you get a
terrestrial
picture?
refraction.
Did it try to pick your pocket?
No, it was too much at a distance.
The best one line ever is on a clear enough day with a powerful enough zoom and a bit of Paul's bath so you can see your own ass in a telescope.
Yeah, but technically you could do that in a looping realm as well. And it would have to be dead straight. So
Yeah, but you're talking about curvature of space-time though, right?
no, I'm talking about looping confined available space.
Yeah, space-time.
No, not space-time. Looping confined available space, not a other concept that involves time.
Sounds like space-time.
But it isn't.
You're going to have to explain that to me, Arwen.
It's separate. So you could say, oh, that kind of sounds like Einstein. It isn't. But in a way, it is a piece of reasoning that can be empirically proven on Earth here. It's just, it's not been proven yet, but it's possible to be proven because it's not permanently out of reach. It's specifically within the reach of possibilities to prove whether it's there or not.
Okay, Winstein.
Winstein.
Did you pay 800 quid for the 4070 Ti?
Boo! I saw a geometric horizon. Yeah.
Yes.
No
Well
more
done,
amp
Owen.
talk.
The X-back
Stupid.
spooked me a
This
bit.
is not
666.
the soundboard debates. Board with
Hold on, Owen.
ORE.
Just one sec. How much did you pay for it? I'm just intrigued because the graphics card prices are so high at the moment.
Yeah, it's 799.99.
What an absolute outrage. That should be a £500 graphics card. Maybe 6. What an outrage.
I'm having camarones al ajillo tonight for dinner.
Palette are the biggest board partner. Did you know that? They're the biggest one.
No, they're not.
I don't
EVGA or the other one is, I can't remember the other one. It'll come to me. EVGA and
Should we tell him that EVGA don't even make graphics cards anymore?
what, really? Simple?
EVGA stopped making graphics cards, right? At the end of the crypto boom, just before the new range that we're talking about came out, EVGA said, no, what NVIDIA are planning is messing us and the customers around so much that we refuse to be a board partner anymore. We won't make graphics cards from this point forward. So there are no EVGA 40 series graphics cards in existence. They've stopped making them.
I did not even know that.
Yeah, because of the shenanigans of NVIDIA. They've said, no, we're not going to make you. No.
Arwin,
Well, a bigger con
I've
is the
just seen a
x86, isn't
refracted
it?
horizon as well.
Cool.
Let me just tell you what they've done, Anthony.
What did it look like?
With the naming structure, Anthony.
Wobbly.
Let me just tell Anthony. Hello?
No, stop it. I don't want to hear any more computer talk.
Just one more
This is a
thing.
flat earth debates, damn it.
Let me just tell Anthony. So, you know how previously, Anthony, right, the next generation would come up, and if you had an 80 series, the next generation 60 series would be about the same, and the 70 series would be about the same as the previous top of the range. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got a 1080 Ti. So the next range was the 20 series. Well, the 2070 was about the same as your one, which was the top of the range. That's how it used to go. What they've done is they've moved all the chip sizes down one. So what used to be a 3050 size chip is now the 3060 and 70 size chip. Does that make sense? So they've moved all the chips up, down one size. So the size of
It's a
chip.
bit like when they
go on.
It's a bit like when they have the gravity talk and they assign us 1G when we're not actually moving.
Well, no, it's more like when they had
starting to feel like a Coriolis effect's kicking in here. It's killing me.
Well, just 60 series cards was always I think it's 104 die. Yeah. Well, now it's 104 dies on the 70 series. So they've just moved all the sizes up one and increased the prices. So where 70 series was 500 quid and 80 series was 600 quid or 700 quid for you, I think you paid 650 for yours, right? Top of the range used to be 650 quid. Now it's $2,000. Nuts. To replace your graphics card, Anthony, $2,000 for the top of the range one to replace it.
That's why I'm not going to even think about it for the next 10 years.
For a mid-range card, that's what Paul's just bought. A mid-range card. 800 to 900 quid. Mid-range used to be 300 quid. And cheap, that's 150 to 200 quid, is now 450 quid. 400 quid. So what they're now calling a 4060 and a 4060 Ti is what used to be the old generation 3050 with a tiny little crappy chip. Because they've figured out that the onboard graphics is better than a cheap graphics card. But they still make small graphics card chips. So they've just called it the next range up and increased the price. What an outrage. Anyway, got that off my chest.
It's like, what's the... Oh, back in a bit.
Well, I'm glad you've ordered a good computer. Perfect spec. 7800 X3D and 4070 Ti in that computer. No fans. Turn the graphics card down, power down. Perfect. It'll be completely silent and absolutely blisteringly fast.
You know what's interesting about those card ecosystems is they could just change things with developers and actually make it mandatory to have those cards to play certain games with certain levels, simply with software.
Yeah, they have actually done that recently. So what they've done is they've increased the textures to the point where they don't fit in old graphics card memory. So if you've got a 6 gigabyte graphics card from 2 or 3 years ago, the texture size doesn't fit into the memory. So it just won't load. So you've got to buy a new one.
Yeah. Sounds like they've learned well from Apple.
Yeah.
Or you just don't buy the newest games because they're kind of stupid anyway.
Yeah.
And bloated.
He's got you.
Yeah, that's exactly right, are we?
Yeah, a lot of the new games are bankrupt in their gameplay and narrative. They're just crap. I've purchased games and I've played them for like a half an hour, and they're absolutely boredom to supreme. They're like got awesome graphics, but they're just boring. It's like you basically might as well watch a movie and just hold a controller in your hand and tap A repeatedly.
Yeah, I agree. Totally
I
agree.
play Baldur's Gate from '98 every few years, and it's fresh every time. I know the story, but it's great, and the music's great, and it's super, super, super fluid. So quick, no delay ever. Great, I love it. I don't need the shitty new games. If I want to play some little bit more advanced graphics, I'll go for Civilization 5, which works perfectly smoothly, right? And don't really get bored. I've played it so many times. Like, I don't need new games. New games are lame.
My
They're
video
too
games ended
attention
at Mike
grabby.
Tyson's
They're
Punch-Out.
too broad. They're too desperate.
Go on, Neil.
The newer games are too desperate.
You've got kids that want to play games, right, Neil? Go ahead.
I said my video game knowledge ended at Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Classic.
Wow, that's
I was
really
enjoying
old.
Minecraft.
Little Mac.
Is that a Tower of Babel, or there are no trees on flat Earth that's being built?
I have no idea. It's my daughter playing around.
To see the size of trees she's building. It's huge.
You built one out of TNT the other day, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I want to see if I can make your computer overheat by making all these explosions happen at once. Because I've been telling her that I've been tuning the computer so it doesn't overheat when she plays Minecraft. She's like, I want to make it explode. She wants to blow the computer up.
Quality.
Okay.
Dude, if you could
Right, but
write a
why is
program
Minecraft so
that
great?
would,
It's not because of the graphics, you know?
And it's rendering all
Yeah,
sorts
you
of
create-
worlds underneath you. She flies around. Anyway, go ahead, AI.
I would say if you could make Minecraft where all the surface textures undergo a Photoshop Gaussian blur simultaneously, that's the fastest way I think you could melt a computer. So it'd be applying Photoshop filters to every texture simultaneously.
They kind of do that. They've got ray tracing, haven't they? Real-time ray tracing is kind of similar.
I don't think it's that is quite as intensive, but maybe.
Our computer's
I
great.
think they're already doing real-time ray tracing.
Yeah. New graphics card can do it. It's just very, very power intensive.
No. I think they've been doing that for a decade at least.
Not in
Very
games.
standard.
Not in games. Not as you're real-time rendering the image. No, definitely not. That's
Oh, really?
relatively recent. Yeah, that's only in the last 5 to 10 years. And even then, they haven't really got it down pat really that well. You need a lot of power to do it. In fact, I would say the first one that can really do it is the one that Paul's just buying. So the 4070 Ti graphics card is one of the first cards that you can just say, yeah, I want to use ray tracing and not care.
Yeah, that's why like most games are forced to have a performance mode because most people's systems can't handle any of that stuff. So most people don't even experience it. They buy a game that can do it and they never see it.
Yep. That said, I do actually turn it
Speaking
on
of-
so it looks pretty.
Yeah, speaking
I
of
got some
which,
Star Wars game with my GPU.
Say again?
yeah, speaking of which, to back up Arwen against the mockery that he was receiving from Neil, is Neil believes in specific theism in which God created the world from non-physical stuff and manifested it into physical stuff, which we experience. And the nature and how that works, nobody knows. So whether space and time is actually 3D or 5D or 10D, nobody really knows from that point of view. So to criticize Arwen for speculations of how the subnet of reality works, right? When you believe in creation ex nihilo, right, it's kind of hypocritical.
What's that word? Ex what now?
Nihilo.
What's that mean?
From nothing.
Ex nihilo means from nothing.
No.
Ex
N.
Ex nihilo.
November. Yeah.
Ex nihilo. New word.
That's important. Look, it's important in the flat Earth, globe Earth debate, especially on a server called Science versus Pseudoscience. And the reason is, science, right, thinks that they're dealing with the physical and natural world, right, which is tangible, concrete, manifested, all of these types of things. You know, you tap on your steering wheel and it's a real solid object that prevents you from going through it. However, science has gotten to the point now. I'm speaking science as the mainstream consensus narrative status quo. They're getting to the point now where they're accepting the ultimate fundamental unit of reality is consciousness. And so you can't have reality without consciousness in the first instance. And since consciousness is immaterial in principle, then that means that all material is actually a derivative of immaterial. Now, that's a very hard quandary to solve. It's like, how does something that has no concrete spatial effect create something that has concrete spatial effect? Well, the easiest answer is that it's all an information system, right? That's the easiest way to solve the energy problem. It's just an experience of
Well,
the mind.
mathematically solve it, that is, because I'd like to see some varying and manipulating of this conscious manifesting and de-manifesting matter. That would be interesting.
Oh, sure. The thing is the point is whether it's true or not doesn't really matter at this stage. What matters is that's where the mainstream is heading. They're going to float that idea. And it's not far off from specific theism, like, let's say, Christianity, where the general consensus among Bible believers is that God created the universe ex nihilo. So God exists as a specific type of thing, which is not material or anything. And then from whatever he's made of, or however he does it, nobody really knows, then comes the physical universe, whatever that is.
Just
And
a
nobody
question
knows how
on,
one transitions into the other.
is it implicit
There's
in
another one.
scripture
Go ahead.
that the creation is ex nihilo?
Is it what?
Is it
Implicit or
in scripture
explicit?
that is the nature of creation? That it was from nothing.
Well, it obviously was from God, so it's not from nothing in a categorical sense, but it's from nothing in the sense that there's no previous structures which were then manipulated to give us what we have. However, some people do believe
that's my
that.
point. No, that's where's the evidence for that? Where's the scripture that sustains that statement? I know it doesn't say
Yeah,
like
that's
God
what
had a bag of Play-Doh in the back ready to go. That Play-Doh was always is and always was. But to then extrapolate what's in Genesis to mean that exactly that it's from nothing, I don't necessarily see that. That's why I'm asking what which bits of
Yeah, it's
scripture
not
would support that
necessarily
viewpoint.
in Genesis. There's other places that give hint to it, specifically.
No, I'm not for swear,
the
but
category.
just swear.
Yeah. I'm saying that it's not specifically in Genesis, but the point is
where
that
then?
Well, like in the category of made and unmade things. So all created things, the only things that exist that aren't created are the Godhead.
Yeah, but that's created.
whatever-
Created. We're not talking about necessarily created from the matter. We're talking about the matter itself that the creation occurs from.
Right.
You're saying
right,
it's implicit
exactly.
that from a Christian viewpoint, that matter is manifested at the point of creation. I'm asking where in scripture is that very specific viewpoint thing? It's a point of ignorance, not contention.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to get into that right now because I want to get to the end of my point, which is this. There's two ways to look at it, which is which he just brought up. He just brought up, which is exactly what you should bring up, because that begs the question. Well, did material stuff always exist and God just manipulate it, or did material stuff come from God in a metaphysical sense? So the one way of looking at it is that God is a specific being, and all other things come from him. They didn't exist eternally. He's the only thing that existed eternally. And another way to look at it is God is just an agent within a universe, and he is the most powerful agent, and he's able to manipulate the structure of the universe because the universe is its own thing separate from God. So what this leads to is the idea of either God created all other things, or God is just one thing in the total universe. So in one view, God is external to the universe, and in the other view, he's within the universe. Now, science, quote unquote, the scientific paradigm is going to accept that premise that God is within the universe and he's just an agent within a greater system. So he's not the source of the system, nor is he omnipotent over the system. He's just a user within the system, just like us. So there's a lot of theological and metaphysical claims that are going to be made in the near future about the nature of humans in light of creation and in light of eternity. So, for example, if you believe in monism, right, then all things are eternal, including the human consciousness. And then you get that idea where the human is actually God and God is the human, and it's all one self-caused loop of creation. Which, by the way, is very palatable to a lot of people. They like that better than the idea that God is an external object upon which all subjective reality is grounded upon.
But AI
Because
isn't,
in the
to
one
Adam's
view,
question, is it? Doesn't it say that
go ahead.
all things were created by him and for him, meaning Jesus Christ? So isn't that at the beginning of creation? Doesn't that state that everything created was created by him?
Yeah,
But does
yes, and
that
in other
imply
places it
matter?
does
That
say
point
that.
is,
In other
sorry.
places it goes beyond the idea of made things and goes into things like principalities, powers, basically a category of all types of metaphysical things. So one could
Ephesians
look at
6.
it, oh well, creating is just taking stuff and rearranging it. But I think in
Right.
common language we would call, like, you create a car, right? When you build a car, someone might say, "Oh, you created that car," but they don't think that you actually made the parts themselves from nothing. You used existing structures. So in one view,
Right.
it elevates God as a supreme being, and in the other view, it elevates matter.
Right.
And
I like to
he brought up a good point. He brought up a good point, which is, if you parse it, you could make the argument from scripture, like, well, it doesn't really say that God is an external object. There is wiggle room in these definitions, and therefore God is just an agent within a universe that eternally existed, a physical universe that eternally existed. The problem is that, like, in my view, that would make God subordinate or coordinate with the physical universe rather than extraordinate. Which there's other reasons why I believe he's extraordinate. But the point is that mainstream science is going to latch onto this idea of an information-based reality, a subjective idealistic reality, in which the reality itself is just whatever it is, and the agents within it are just acting within it. So you can have gods within that realm. There are extra, dimensional entities that are more better than we are, more evolved, however you want to look at it. But it's still going to have like this evolutionary concept within it, to where you start out small, and then through expressing yourself in the system, you become stronger and stronger and stronger, and eventually you'll be able to control the system, even to the point of losing the necessity for a physical body, and you just become in an energy state with the universe. So essentially, you start out as an amoeba, right? From a pond scum, you become a monkey, then you become a human, then you create a computer, then you download your consciousness into the computer, then you float out of the computer as an energy cloud and join your brothers in the stars.
Sounds like a video game.
I've seen that concept expressed in many science fiction series. So one of them being Babylon 5 had an episode specifically about that.
Well, that is kind of like how it is. And it's like, so the video game analogy is very good, because in one view, God is just an agent within a massive video game that just existed eternally, rather than the game designer himself.
Okay, then. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, another massive thank you to all of you for tuning in, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!